The show started like 8 seconds ago, but the encoder was frozen. I couldn't. Listen, this day's been full of a lot of difficulties. So I'll start with this. So I am an employed individual now. I've got a job. I mean, it's not a full-time job, and it is a minimum wage job. But I do have a job. And
that's good enough.
I hope one day I could, get a full-time. That's the dream now is full-time job.
Yep, pretty much with benefits.
Right. Well,
benefits are important.
I mean, I would like to have everything with benefits if I could.
Yeah.
But, it's
goodness.
What?
I gotta drop that thing and say I'm unemployed with full benefits.
Dude,
go Canada!
Brendan, listen, Brendan, let me tell you one thing. If you were unable to be on the show today, it would have broken my heart a little bit, only because I've had so many co-hosts unable to be on this show because of various circumstances. I feel like I'm like dodging boulders every single week I try to do this show.
I won't be here next week.
Oh yeah, and I won't.
She won't be here next week.
Yeah, next week we'll see how
nobody here.
how we do that show. Well, okay.
Who do I send unsolicited pictures to if no one else is here?
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, okay. Speaking of which,
you can still send it to me.
Let me bring this bullshit up right now. No. Listen to this. Listen to this. So you know how at work, and speaking of me having a job, you know how at work, you have like a chat room that you create for just the workers, and you keep the management out, so you can like have like real conversations.
So you can also talk shit.
Yeah, you talk shit about the management.
Yeah. So we have a chat group for all the people who host this show called Far Tortuga. I call it Far Tortuga randomly because I remembered a random ass book I once heard about. Anyway, whatever.
That's from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Well, it is kind of. It was, I think, like a Caribbean-y sailing
What a
pirate
nerd.
book. But the point is, it's called Far Tortuga. The point is, I just found out 2 days before the show started that I guess Courtney and Ken and Brendan...
No.
Just Courtney and Brendan?
Yes.
Oh, Ken's not included?
Is
Ryan included?
No.
Oh, well, I don't give a shit about that then. Okay.
Oh, you thought... Oh.
I thought this was like everybody in a group talking shit about me if I'm the boss.
Noosh, the world does not revolve around you.
Well, sometimes it's hard to remember that when I'm the only one talking. In my head.
There was a thing where talking shit about you?
Yes.
Why was I not invited?
I thought Ken would be the number one person in that.
No, you know me. I talk about shit to your face. I'm that kind of guy.
He's a true friend.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, well... anyways, well, I guess bullet dodge. I guess that's fine.
Yeah, good job, twat.
So every single time we're doing this show and we are, I'm doing the sound checks, when I activate each of the mics and I turn up the volume to get, the right sound balance, I always say, all right, turning on so-and-so, turning on so-and-so. So every single time, every week I say, turning on Courtney. She just laughs.
She's like, you wish.
What other reaction would you like?
Well, I mean, if I'm turning you on, clearly I'd like a better reaction than you laughing.
I guess. Fair enough.
Noosh has terrible memories of being laughed at in these situations. Let's not...
No. Okay, want me to tell you a funny thing? Okay, I'll tell you a funny thing. So one time, I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys ever. One time, in the middle of doing stuff...
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. You have to continue now. You're too far into it.
Now what?
So continue, please.
Anyway, the girl said something to the ilk of like, so, what can I do to, help you finish? Or like something like that. Like, what can I do to like,
wink, wink.
Whatever. And so...
Was there a wink, wink?
I wanted to say the funniest possible thing. I want to say something really funny. So I looked right in her eyes and I said... Talk about anime with me.
Oh my god.
Well,
you look like the dude too.
Well, that's how you lose a girl. You heard it here.
And that was the last time.
Get ready.
So, welcome to another episode of From Courtney to Ken. I'm your host, Danushka Kumara Singha. Today we've got Brendan Kidney, I hope. Ken Tran,
Yeah.
Courtney Rajan, Ania Dawson is our guest for today. So for today, what I'm going to be saying is if we were My Little Pony's characters,
Oh, no.
Oh my
Dear God.
this is
I actually hate that show.
this is who we would be.
Okay.
So starting with, the easiest one for me is Brendan. Easy. Brendan's
Oh,
Rainbow
no.
Dash, no doubt. Brendan's Rainbow Dash because Rainbow Dash is the most likely to break down a door. Easy, easy.
Okay.
Rainbow Dash. Ken, you would be Fluttershy. You would definitely be Fluttershy.
Which one is that one?
Fluttershy is the shy one.
I'm the shy
pony.
one?
Yeah.
He's been very vocal.
No, but he's said it many times before. He's internally that guy,
Okay.
or so he says to me.
He has a look of confusion on his, or he's kind of like,
Listen, man, you're either Fluttershy or Applejack. And listen, there's only one person who's Applejack. Speaking of, Ryan is Applejack because Applejack is the most moral, kind, courageous, good-hearted. She's a Southern gal, you know.
Oh, okay.
That's Applejack. Courtney, you would be Twilight Sparkle.
Okay. What's the defining qualities?
Well, Twilight Sparkle is the main character, first of all.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
She
Ooh, I get my
is-
own show.
Yeah, she's the main character. She is the one who binds everybody together. She is the book reader.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah.
I'll go
That's
with that.
cute.
Okay.
So here's the
We're
thing.
going to that one again.
Well,
There's only-
you'll have to remind me of the names later of who you're equating everyone with, and we'll do a post on Instagram
Yeah.
with everyone next to their My Little Pony character.
Okay. For the there's only 2 left, right?
Okay.
Now here's the thing.
Sure.
I'm going to tell you what Ania would be, but the
Okay.
thing is, what she would be is what I would be if Ania wasn't here. The problem is Ania does what I do better than me. So because of that, Ania automatically is this character.
Okay.
Ania is Pinkie Pie. Pinkie Pie is like the wild, wacky, crazy one who sings songs. Like she'll just suddenly start singing a song out of nowhere. She's the crazy one on the group.
Okay.
That would have been me, but Ania kind of beats me at that.
Okay.
So
Yeah, wearing
It's-
Space Jam's hoodie right now.
yeah,
so-
I mean she's got the Space Jam T-shirt, for crying out loud.
I was looking at that. So when
Yeah.
that came out, it was popular. I actually had a Taz jersey that I wore.
Bed sheets.
oh no.
I had Space Jam bed sheets.
Okay.
No,
I did not hear.
I
Space
got
Jam
some
bed sheets for
Space
my
Jam
for my
bed
birthday
sheets
party
and
one year,
pajamas.
we
We
had
had
a
those
birthday
too, the
party.
bed sheets. Can I just say though,
Yeah, what?
when you first said bed sheets, I didn't hear bed sheets. I heard butt sheets, and I'm like, what
Well.
the hell is that?
What is butt
I don't
sheets?
think I want to know what butt sheets are.
But no, you know what butt sheets are, guys. They probably
It's another
exist.
name for toilet paper.
And if they don't exist, they should. Basically, sometimes a lot of people like to sleep naked, and then they say it's good for you, sleep naked, right? Problem with sleeping naked is this. You gotta wash your bed sheets more often because your
That's
bed sheets
true.
get dirtier faster.
Yeah.
Butt sheets are basically a small pad you place in the crotch butt area on top of your sheets. That way it'll soak up all your shit. Not your shit.
They kind
And
of had that.
yours
Don't they
had
use that in
Michael
hospitals
Jordan
for
and
people?
Bugs Bunny?
Basically, it's like hospital sheets. Yeah, it's like that clear
Wait, is
paper.
this real?
No, I'm saying it should be.
Oh.
though.
No, he was saying that, but
But no,
sheets
it's
would be
basically
allowed.
hospital, what they use in hospitals, or
Yeah.
puppy pads, what you use to
Yeah,
train dogs.
Basically, guys, human puppy pads.
Puppy pads or
Hashtag human puppy
how
pads.
about diapers then?
So speaking
Then
of
you're not
which,
sleeping naked.
the
Okay,
only
sorry, go ahead.
the only character left
Okay.
is Rarity. And actually, Rarity is my favorite character too.
Okay.
But the only way that I match up with Rarity is in one possible way. It's because Rarity is definitely the person who's like, when she's like working, she's like on it. She's like, guys, focus on this, focus on that. Like she is
Yeah,
like,
that's you.
she's like
That's you.
micromanaging girl, But she's, I love her. She's cool.
That
She's,
definitely
you know
sounds
her
like
thing
you.
is she's full of it, but she's down to earth and she has a good heart. That sounds
That's
like me.
what matters.
That's-
what
that's
matters.
definitely
me.
news.
I
That's
mean,
definitely
when I
news.
found out that my teammates had their own private chat where they talk shit about me, I didn't get mad.
Yes,
I
you
was
did.
You were
Yes,
so
you
not
did.
mad.
But that wasn't the case.
Anyway, Ania, our guest for today, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right. Let's see. I'm 27. I'm in my last semester here at Cal State Dominguez Hills.
Congrats.
Yes,
Almost
I'm
there.
I'm a communications major like Noosh was, except I'm a media studies focused major. I actually did a radio show for 2 years.
Yeah, the Franz, Ania, Tanisha.
No, it was just France and Ania.
Okay,
it was
well,
always France
no,
and
listen,
Ania.
I'm going to tell this to the listeners, though. Her show was Franz and Ania, but then they added 2 more co-hosts, and they changed the name to, like, friends, Anisha, Tanisha, and Tara.
Fat show.
And then they got rid of one, and it was like 3 of them, and then they all quit. I mean, it was chaotic. It was a chaotic experience.
I did radio show for 2 years, and because of my weight loss journey, I've been going on for the past 8 months. I have somehow gained a following on Instagram.
Nice.
So you
now.
Instagram your photos, and people are like, "Oh, this girl's like got like motivation," and she's like,
Well, I put up like positive. So like what I do is I do like a stats post of like my workout, and then I do like a motivational like 1 minute video on Instagram about like anything dealing with life. Like it could be anything, and I try to keep it positive. Except this past Sunday, I did do a rant video. So.
Dude, actually at work, I told them I want to do this because they have this thing called like, I don't know, like Thought Tuesday or something. I don't know. They have
Thought
this thing.
Tuesday.
I don't know.
Okay.
All I know is they get like photos of like nature and stuff like that, and they put like a motivational quote. So I said one of the things I would put at work. I want to get a picture. This is like a ridiculous one. I want to get a
Okay.
picture of like a waterfall.
Okay.
And then I want to put on top of it the quote, if you don't reach too far, you're not reaching at all. Doesn't make any sense, but I like the idea of a quote that doesn't make sense.
And the weird part was that would make sense to someone like me. I did not plan on the Instagram following off of weight loss. I was just doing it because I know a lot of my friends, they have struggles with it and everything.
I actually just did the same kind of thing recently. I haven't actually mentioned this on this show. I've, within the last year, lost 150 pounds.
Damn, dude, Brenda, you lost a noosh, man. That's like a little over my body weight.
You now have to figure your weight in terms of noosh.
Yeah, dude.
I lost a noosh.
You have
lost
lost
a
one
noosh.
noosh.
I mean, mine is considered a little child, how much I lost, but it's like I don't have any kids.
You lost a grown-ass man, Brenda.
You really did.
Wow, man. Well, congrats to both of you on your, accomplishments,
Yeah, that's
That's
awesome.
something.
Thank
That's
you.
something.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I mean, so...
But I'm trying to revamp my YouTube channel because the whole point I wanted to do this was I wanted to be a content creator that is just okay with being themselves and helping people be the little happy superstars that they're supposed to be in their own way. But I'm also doing it because I want to express to young girls, especially as young as 5 or 7 years old, you don't have to rush. Even if you think you're different now, that's going to help you when you get older. That's why I tell people I'm not just a fitness person, I'm a motivational person. It's not about weight loss. It's about mentally being a better you.
Yeah.
For me, I wasn't accepted for my personality for a long time.
It's not about shedding pounds. It's about shedding negativity.
Exactly.
Put that in front of a waterfall.
Or no, to be counterproductive, you put that on a picture of donuts or something.
So the topic for today's story, well, I mean, here's the thing. The topic for today's story was gonna be eccentric or eccentricity, but we've kind of narrowed it down even further to emperors.
Oh, okay. I didn't know we were changing it to that.
It's the topic is emperors.
All right, that works.
Yeah. So Courtney, take it away.
Well, let's talk about the first emperor, and probably the only emperor of the United States.
Now, here's the thing. I will say this. I don't know where, but I know I've heard this story before somewhere. I don't know anything about it. I don't remember any of the details, but I know I heard the story of the American emperor.
I can tell you where I heard this. I heard they talked about it briefly on the podcast that I listened to, No Such Thing as a Fish.
Okay.
They brought it up, and I'm like, that's so interesting. I quickly ran to my whiteboard in my room, and I wrote down the names. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background information,
Right.
then we'll get into that. So let's meet Joshua Abraham Norton. He was born in Britain, and he spent his youth in South Africa before he moved to San Francisco.
Okay, I mean, already this guy is he's more well-traveled than most people. Here's the thing. For some reason, I imagined the first American emperor would come from humble beginnings, but he's already lost that check mark in my book. Because he's been to South Africa,
I've
traveled.
been to South Africa, and I've been to Britain, and I've lived in San Francisco.
You're...
That's it. Courtney
Listen,
for Empress.
Courtney, yeah, I mean,
girl.
Courtney,
You been to Africa?
did you think...
When were you in Africa?
I went to South Africa in 2007 with my class when I was in New York.
Did you go back to the actual motherland? I mean, I would say our motherland, but we have separate
I
motherlands.
have not been to.
So
I have not been to
okay.
India. I don't know if I want to go to India.
Yeah.
But the joke that my siblings and I all have is that if we ever go to India, one suitcase will be dedicated just to toilet paper.
Oh gosh.
Oh
That
no.
sounds
That's your white
fascinating.
side.
That's totally my white
that's
side.
your
I
white
embrace
side.
it. Absolutely. Okay. So back to Joshua. He didn't really have. I mean, his family was okay. They weren't really anything. I mean, they were just merchants. Nothing really big. So he made it over into San Francisco. He came during the gold rush in 1849, and he got into the real estate business. And he had, according to some stories about him, he did have $40,000 that might have been left to him from his father after he died.
What year was this? Like how long ago?
1849.
Okay, so I mean, $40,000.
$40,000.
40,000. The guy's rich. I mean,
The guy's
yeah,
rich.
oh,
The
yeah,
guy's
yeah,
rich.
yeah.
this guy was like the son of like Leland Stanford or something.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
he's a wealthy guy.
Well, he was pretty smart. According to some reports, he was able to take that original 40 and turn it into $250,000. So he's doing pretty good for himself
Yeah.
in San Francisco. So
$250,000 back
back
then.
then,
Yeah.
Okay, I mean,
Back
yeah, definitely.
then.
This guy did
he
not.
is set for life.
He started as an emperor and he's gonna
Yeah.
end as an emperor.
Yes. Well, so he did that, and then he decided to try something out, and so there was a rice shortage in 1853. Sorry,
By the way, where is this?
San Francisco. He's
San
in
Francisco. So he's in California.
So he's in
Okay.
California. He came out during the gold rush days, so everyone is kind of looking for their fortune
Right.
during
Yeah.
this time. So in December 1852, China was having a severe famine, and so they
Right.
decided to ban exports on rice. So Norton thought to himself, let me see if I
Dude,
can corner
By
this
the way,
market.
that is really funny because the Chinese banned rice into America and the Americans banned Chinese into America. I mean, it
goes hand in hand.
I mean, at least, you know what? Because for a long time, I didn't know about this rice ban. For a long time, I was always like, man, dude, the Americans sucked back then. They banned the Chinese.
Yeah.
But I guess the Chinese, at least they got some kind of payback.
Well, they banned Chinese, but not too many because a lot of them worked on the railroads and stuff like that.
Well, right,
so
but that was that's afterwards.
Is that
the Chinese,
afterwards?
because you said that your story's in 18 what?
1850s.
So I mean, 1870s is when they started. The 1870s, 80s is when the Chinese Exclusion Act started.
Oh, okay.
So it's-
Oh, so this
About after.
kind of started.
So there's a ban on rice. So
Oh, you're
so-
saying maybe the Americans remember the Chinese banning their
Yes,
rice? Like,
I was
oh,
like-
you don't give us rice?
We'll get back
I
at
mean,
you.
I mean, I'm sorry. I love the United States and everything, but we are the country of pettiness at its finest.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. that is very true.
That is true.
So there's the ban. So Norton thinks to himself, okay, I think there might be an opportunity here. So he hears about a ship returning from Peru called the Glide, and it has 200,000 pounds of rice. So what he does is he buys all of this rice for $25,000, the whole thing, to try to corner that market on rice. However, after signing the contract for that, and he's going to do it, other ships from Peru come in with a lot of rice, and so that drops the price of rice.
So he buys rice from the Peruvians.
Yes.
But then the Peruvians still come in with their own fleet
Yeah,
of
he
ships.
thought that was going to be the only shipment.
He was going to be like he's basically like the
He wanted to become a rice conglomerate.
like the South Sea bubble, but for like South American Peruvian rice,
Yes.
basically. he is the American Peruvian Indies company. I don't know.
You can work on that title,
Yeah, we'll
whatever
we'll
it
work on the
is.
naming.
So because all this other rice came in that he was not aware of, that caused rice to drop down to 3 cents per pound, and so that just completely messed up everything. He actually, from 1853 to 1857, he was in litigation over this because he was trying to back out of it. He's just like, I wasn't told about this. It's a lie. I need to get my money back.
By the
blah,
way,
blah.
I mean, the Peruvians, they mess with one dude. Like one dude, they're like they knew they're gonna send a fleet of Peruvian rice ships in, but they're like, this one guy, fuck this guy. We're gonna make him buy this rice and then not tell him about the rice aid coming in, the green piece of rice coming in.
Yeah, so for 4 years...
Rice Corps.
Rice Corps. So for 4 years, he's in litigation trying to get out of this. The lower courts actually sided with Norton, but it actually ended up all going up to the California Supreme Court, and they went against him. As a result of this, in 1858, he had to declare bankruptcy. Lost all his money in
So
rice.
some rice.
All he had was
In
rice.
rice. In
Oh,
rice.
it's rice.
He had no furniture, but he had rice.
I would have
Exactly.
used that rice to like make a bed.
Well, I mean,
make some fur-
Dude, Ania's got that's the creativity talking. She's got the right idea. I mean, you can do a lot with rice. You can sleep on it. You can eat it. You can
can
stay
write on it.
warm.
Oh wait, and
You can write on it.
dude, like seriously,
You can get drunk on rice,
No,
man.
yeah,
rice
that's true.
wine.
Rice wine.
Yeah.
Rice wine.
Oh, there is rice, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I would have like used some like super glue and made some shoes out of that. Like I would have came up with
No,
my
no, no,
own
no,
rice.
Ania, Ania, that's stretching a little bit. You wouldn't use the rice to make shoes or clothes. You use the sacks, girl. You use the sacks. You sew the sacks into shoes and clothes.
Why? Because you know what? If water touches it, it's gonna soak up.
What are you gonna do with the sacks? That's what you gotta think about.
What am I gonna use the sacks to wrap up my hair?
Well, I mean, the same thing. That's clothes. That's clothes.
I'm talking about okay. What if I use the sacks and I glued rice on the sacks and start making like little pattern stuff, like little like
Well, right, you gotta
shirts and
design it. You
everything?
gotta
Yeah, he
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
he really needed you back then because he just wasted the rice.
I mean, really, what he didn't have was somebody who can like market it, design it, make a brand out of like rice. He could have been the Leland Stanford of rice if he had an Ania.
I mean, there's a lot. I don't know like how marketing was back then. But I mean, if there was somebody who was genius enough to do it, I mean, I mean, like I'm thinking like everything was different back then. But I was like, man, you could have really turned it and there was a rice shortage. First of all, I would have been like, you know what? Hold the phone. I would have did this. I said, you know what? Since there's a Chinese, the China had the rice ban, I would have turned that over and been like, you know what? I'm going to sell it all over here.
Dude, you know what I would have done? I would have done this one of two things. One, you either market it as like, well, this is all American rice.
Yeah.
Exactly.
that Peruvian junk, that ain't American.
American rice.
This is American grown.
I would have turned
sold by an
that-
American.
Right.
Or number two, you do the exact same thing about like American grown rice, but you sell to the Chinese.
you go.
There's nothing more American than selling
Something
things
else
to
in
Chinese
China.
people. Selling to China is the most American
see,
thing.
and he could have turned that around, and he could have made like stupid buku money.
So you guys need to get in a time machine and go help
Wait,
Norton
why?
figure
Why?
this out.
Okay, do you know why he bought the rice though?
Well, good, because there was
he wanted-
shortage.
There was a shortage,
Yeah.
a rice shortage.
In America?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who in America
Well,
eats
or
rice?
maybe
There
he
was a lot of
maybe
people
he
eat
thought I
rice.
don't know if there actually was a shortage, but maybe he thought because China was banning export of
Oh,
rice that there
okay.
would eventually be.
So
by him
thought.
buying all
Oh,
that.
okay. So
by him buying all that, he's like, okay, I'm going to corner this market. I'm going to go ahead and get a jump on it.
Dude, his
I'm
problem
just
was
guessing.
this. His problem is he's from the 1800s, and he just thought, well, rice comes from China. It comes from Asia. He didn't realize, oh, wait, the South Americans, the Latinos, they eat
Basmati
rice.
Right?
He-
could have.
he wasn't thinking about that. Yeah,
Now
yeah.
that we learned that he had to declare bankruptcy because
Yeah.
he lost
Right.
some money over rice and he was stupid. Like,
So
even-
wait, so
yes.
he, by the way, so he had to go to court for this.
He had to go because he was trying to get out of it, out
Right.
of the deal.
And what did the judge say? The judge is just like,
I didn't read any decisions. I just know that the lower court sided with him,
Yeah.
but then it went up to the California Supreme Court and they went against him.
it went to the California
They went
Supreme
to the California
Court.
Supreme Court, and they sided with the other, like maybe the Peruvians, I guess. I
Yeah.
don't know. And as a result, I guess he spent all his money fighting this, so then he had to declare bankruptcy.
What's this guy's name? Joshua what?
Joshua Abraham Norton.
So it's Joshua Norton versus the Peruvian Pacific,
Maybe it's
the
maybe
Peruvian
it's
Pacific
against-
Rice
company.
Company. There it is. The Peruvian Pacific Rice Company. Dude, we named that company right now.
Hashtag.
Yes.
Copyright that.
Indeed.
So after the court case and he has to declare bankruptcy, he disappears. And then September 1859,
The Rice Emperor
he
disappears.
marches into the offices of the San Francisco Bulletin with a royal decree in hand saying, I am the emperor of these United States.
By the way, you skip. I mean, I don't know if you're going to tell us the journey, but that is quite a journey to go from fallen rice baron
Yes.
to emperor of the United States of America.
Well, I didn't. Well, I'll tell you. I'm going to go through some of this stuff. He probably
Why
could
buy
have.
foreign rice when you can buy kingly rice.
There
Yes.
you go. You could have been his PR
What
rep.
makes kingly rice better than other rices? It's here. You don't have to go far.
It's all American. We'll make American rice great again.
God.
Oh no.
I'm gonna build a wall so the Peruvian and the Chinese rice can't get into this country.
Goodness Lord.
So his official title was Norton the First, Emperor of the United States. He continued throughout his 20-year reign. He continued to go into the news, and the newspapers would publish each of his decrees that he would come out.
And let's be clear, it's San Francisco newspapers. I mean, they'll print anything.
So one of his first decrees, he aside from naming himself emperor, was in October 1859. I'm just going to read you part of his decree because I just think it's good.
Okay.
So he writes, it is represented to us that the universal suffrage, as now existing through the Union, is abused, that fraud and corruption prevent a fair and proper expression of the public voice, that open violation of the laws are constantly occurring, caused by mobs, parties, factions, and undue influence of political sects. I'm going to skip down.
Political sex?
Sex.
Sects.
S-E-C-T-S.
Oh,
No, I thought she talked about sex. Like,
Yeah.
somebody got to do it in the closet.
yeah. I mean,
Some people do.
sometimes the only way to get a bill passed is to give a hand job. That's just how it
Whoa.
So I'm going to skip down. Then he goes, we do hereby abolish Congress. Can't speak right now. And it is therefore abolished. And we order and desire the representation of all parties, blah, blah, blah. So basically he's just saying Congress is no longer here. I am now fully in charge of everything. And I just thought it was interesting that he's saying that, citizens cannot be guaranteed protection anymore. The government is just out of whack. So we're going to just get rid of it.
So we're just going back to like the wild days of hunters and gatherers.
No, he's saying I'm in charge.
Oh.
I'm taking over because the people over in Washington are dumbasses.
Okay.
Yeah, but nobody
So-
listened to him, right?
Yeah.
No. So again in
No, man,
in
it
July,
depends. How badly do they want that rice?
yeah.
How bad's that shortage?
Later on in July of 1860, he's like, okay, you guys didn't listen to me. I'm saying it again. Congress is no longer here. And he throughout his term as emperor, he keeps putting out decrees saying, Congress, you're no longer here. Stop violating my rules.
President during this time period. I must know.
Lincoln is part of it so as they're about to go into the Civil War, actually, he again says, Congress is gone. We're now going to be under a monarchy, and I'm going to be the ruler. Right at the beginning of the Civil War, and then later when France invaded Mexico, he decided to add to his name. So he's now going to be Norton the First, Emperor of the United States and Protector of Mexico. In 1868, he made a decree that Andrew Johnson, because he tried to usurp or something. But if he's found guilty, because I guess he was going to go on trial, he's like, behead him or send him here to black the emperor's boots. So he wanted to behead Andrew Johnson. So how did San Francisco and other places that might have heard of him react to it? They loved him. Norton was able to get prime seating at theaters for free for opening nights on plays. Restaurants were offering him free food. They would let him eat. And as a part of that, they made a deal. They said, if we give you food, please give us permission to post an imperial seal of approval stating by appointment to His Imperial Majesty Norton the First. So he completely got this.
This dude scammed.
Listen,
so
this
many
is like I said,
people.
dude. This is the thing about San Francisco. Stuff like this can happen there.
Yeah.
Really?
Like there's story like this is for another day, but there's like a story about like this cult that started in like the richest part of San Francisco called the Pendragon. And
I heard about that.
And their goal was to build a laser to melt the San Francisco Bridge, and they all thought of themselves as knights. And I mean, that's San Francisco.
Who doesn't love laser nights?
So let me tell you about this other incident. So in 1867, he was actually arrested. The officer decided to commit him involuntary for treatment for a mental disorder.
Treason.
That's how people thought. People were pissed.
Yeah.
Newspapers are printing editorials. They're like, no, let him out right now. He didn't do anything. And the chief of police at the time actually said, after all this public outcry, like, yes, we're going to release him. And he actually issued an apology, and he said he shed no blood, robbed no one, despoiled no country, which is more than can be said of his fellows in that line. So like he's a homeless person and he's crazy, but at least he's not doing what the other homeless people are doing.
Man, you didn't mention he was homeless till just now.
Well,
and my heart just broke a little.
Well, no, he
bit.
wasn't really
Mine did
homeless,
too.
but no, he I think he had a small place, but he had no money. He was literally living off of
rice.
off of rice and the
he's
goodness
still-
of people.
You lost all your
Suddenly,
money off
everyone
of
giving him those
rice.
free meals seems so much cooler.
Yeah. So, and in 1871, a printing firm actually made currency for him with his own
Dude,
seal
I
on
also
the money.
I also hope that like
Wow.
he made friends with the Chinese or something, because then at least the Chinese would be like, hey man, here's some soy sauce, make that rice taste better.
Oh, or some sweet and sour, or
Sweet and sour,
some
right?
sweet and sour,
I
like
mean-
all day. Just put some butter and some sweet and sour. You're gonna be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so people continued to love him, and people would pay taxes, air quotes, taxes to him, but really it was just like their handouts to help him with whatever needs that he had. Officers would give him a new uniform if his wore out, and lawmakers even used city money from the public funds to help him with his royal wardrobe.
Royal wardrobe.
San
This is
Francisco.
Which consisted of, this is what he always wore. He wore an epaulette adorned navy coat, which is like a navy coat with like
Oh my
usually like the
God.
tassels
So
on
basically, he wore like a dictator uniform. One of those military.
He had an ostrich feather hat, and
Oh
he also
my
carried
God.
around a military
Yeah,
saber.
like an Italian.
Tell
or
me there's
French.
pictures.
He
Military.
he looks like a Civil War military
Yeah,
dude,
yeah.
but he's just like dressed head to toe, like just luxurious, and I can imagine his feather being like gigantic or
Well, yeah,
like
it's an
white
ostrich feather.
Like I can imagine like being dyed like red or pink though, or something like that, just so he can stand out.
Let me tell you about a couple of the other proclamations that he made.
Okay.
So one was in 1872, and I actually agree with this, having lived in San Francisco before.
Okay.
But he decided that the word Frisco was abominable, and that if anyone was caught using it, they would have to pay a $25 fine.
So it's
$25
just
when?
Anytime they referred to San Francisco
Yes,
as
Frisco.
Frisco. Now, it's interesting, in 1870s, some of his other proclamations, he kind of was telling the future a little bit. He made a decree that a bridge should be made between San Francisco and Oakland, which later that did happen in 1936 with the opening of the Bay Bridge. And he also made a decree that a tunnel should be made connecting Bay Area to, I forget where else it was, but that later that was built too. So this is kind of how he lived his life, making decrees, and the city basically were taking care of him and all of that. He had a tiny rented room. He spent his days playing chess, attending religious services, reading in libraries, and going on walks to survey his realm. I love that little line right
The
there.
realm, his
realm.
Yeah.
And usually he had...
look ahead, son. Everything the light
Light
touches is ours. But,
It's our
but
realm.
what about that dark area?
We
That's
don't go.
O-
We
that-
don't
that's-
go there.
We
That's
don't go
Oakland.
there.
That's Oakland.
We don't go there.
That's Oakland. Don't go there.
And he was usually accompanied. He had 2 royal mutts.
Oh, what were the mutts?
They were famous street mutts. So, but
he
their
had-
names were Bummer and Lazarus. So on January 8th, 1880, during one of his usual walks, he died from a stroke.
This is why I'm a fat guy. Okay? I
mean,
live forever,
you're playing
and I
it
get
safe.
to have tacos.
So of course, the San Francisco newspapers and everyone was upset, but even his death stretched out right, and even it was announced in the New York Times. So, I mean, he was known. I think he was pretty much well known throughout the United States, and Congress probably knew of him too, but obviously they didn't do anything
Well,
about his
they
decrees.
couldn't. To acknowledge
But-
his existence was
Yeah.
to acknowledge the falsity of their government.
But he was known, and even the New York Times, ran something from the Chronicle. Their headline from after he died was they printed. I'm guessing it's in Latin, and it says "Le Roi est mort," which is the king is dead. And another paper lamented he is dead. So anyway, a couple of days later, they had a funeral for him. Now, one figure I saw said that 10,000 loyal subjects showed up, and another I saw there was about maybe 30,000 people that showed up to his funeral.
The point
So-
is, it's in the thousands.
Yeah, it was a big number. So I mean, he was really beloved, so much so that even today there are still people trying to work together to get the Bay Bridge renamed to Emperor's Bridge or Emperor Norton's Bridge, or
would be
even
sick.
yeah. So they're even actually in 2018 it would be the 200th anniversary of Emperor Norton's birth, and so they're going to try to get it on the ballot as a proposition to rename the bridge.
Well, I hope that our podcast helps with that
Well, I
by
mean-
telling the story of the emperor.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if the guy pitched it way before the bridge
Yeah.
was even built,
Yeah.
then technically you need to give credit. You need to give credit where credit is deserved.
and that tunnel too.
And I mean, the name doesn't sound bad. Emperor's Bridge. That sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
It's very.
Or even just let it be known as the Emperor's Bridge. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be officially
Yeah.
changed to that. But,
Yeah.
you know, so more people know about Emperor Norton, the great emperor of the United States.
The first and last
Which means
emperor of
anyone,
America.
any bum off the street could do something in San
I didn't-
Francisco, huh?
Dude, I don't know why, but I kind of feel that there's a lot of stories about bums becoming famous in San Francisco. I'm not lying, dude. I feel
there's a
like
lie.
There's a lot
There's
of
a
stories.
lie.
Like San Francisco loves to take homeless people and make them famous.
I'm gonna walk to a restaurant after this job, and I'm just gonna go, I am the emperor. Give me
See
free
how-
chicken.
See how that goes for you. See how that works out.
So, okay, pivoting to another emperor. Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
Let's do
the
it.
the story that I want to tell you guys about is about it's the story of Emperor, and by the way, these are Chinese names. I'm going to be pronouncing these names wrong the whole time. I will not be pronouncing
Maybe you
these
should have
right.
like Google pronounce it for you.
I tried to get a Google pronunciation of this guy's name, but there was no pronunciation.
Oh.
Like this guy did
Ooh.
not have it. I'll do my best.
Okay.
So this is the story of Emperor Zhengde.
Okay.
Zhengde. I think it's Zhengde.
I have
Sang.
no
How's it
idea.
spelled?
Zhengde.
Zhengde?
Zhang Day?
Zhengde.
Zhengde?
I'm gonna call him Zhengde.
Zhengde.
So
Okay.
Emperor Zhengde, okay?
They-
So, starting with birth. So, Zhu Huzhao was born in 1491 as the eldest son of Emperor Hongzhi. Okay? This story takes place, again, 1491. This is where we start.
1 year before Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
This story takes place in the same time frame as Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Henry VIII, Martin Luther. They're all contemporaries.
The Reformation
to
era? Oh,
right
wow.
to Zhu Huzhao. Okay, so same time period. Hongzhi was the 10th Ming Dynasty ruler. Zhu Huzhao would be the 11th. Okay. Hongzhi was the only Chinese emperor. This is the father. Was the only Chinese emperor to refuse to have a harem and had only one wife. He wanted to be completely monogamous.
Good for him.
Nice.
As a result, Hongzhi only had one child. His youngest child died as a baby, so Zhu Huzhao was the only child.
only heir.
He is the only heir to the throne. There is no competition. There's no other hope. So, childhood. Hu Xiao was groomed and prepared for the throne. He was extremely bright, athletic at activities like horseback riding, and had remarkable memory. Many expected him to become one of China's greatest rulers because of his aptitude. However, his childhood was also lonely. His only friends were the 8 eunuchs who cared for him, who are known collectively as the 8 tigers.
Okay.
The
That's a
lead-
cool name to have.
It's a pretty badass name for guys without dicks. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say the
listen,
same thing.
Listen, guys without dicks can at that time can only hope for so much.
Yeah.
Being called the 8 tigers is pretty good.
I mean,
at
it
that
makes
time
up for the
period.
lack of equipment.
Yeah,
so it's
I
like,
mean-
you could you could walk up to a girl and say, "Hey, I'm one of the 8
I'm one of the 8
tigers."
tigers, baby.
So I got that
Want to
clause
cuddle?
for you rare.
Want to cuddle? Because that's all I can do. So the leader of the 8 tigers was Lu Jin, and I mention it now because he's going to be an important player in the story.
Okay.
Interesting.
Lu Jin. Okay, and by the way, if you forget, it's okay. I'll remind you.
Illusion.
Next part of the story, ascension. So Emperor Hongzhi's reign lasted for 18 years, and it was considered one of the golden ages of China. Hongzhi was fair, hardworking. He fought government corruption. He reestablished Confucian principles within the country. He worked hard to elevate the
Yeah.
lowest of the Chinese, right? He was one of the greatest Chinese rulers ever. Literally, the name Hongji means great government.
Oh,
Whoa.
it's in the name. You
It's
can't go
in
wrong with that.
The name. The dude was named, and he was destined for this. So one thing worth remembering is that the life of any emperor is filled with schedules, routines, and duties to the state. Their life is very much not their own. It's not like Western rulers who have a lot of freedom in their own lives.
Yeah.
Chinese rulers are controlled by their stately duties. Hongji died on June 8th, 1505. Hu Zhao ascended to the throne on June 19th, 1505, and when Chinese rulers ascend to the throne, they have to take on what's called a regnal name, right? Hongji was not his real name,
Yeah.
that was his regnal name. So the regnal name that Hu Zhao took was God, I'm gonna pronounce it wrong. Zhengde. Zhengde.
That's kind of like, with the new pope, they get a new name.
They do.
Guys, I'm just gonna pronounce it wrong. I'm just gonna pronounce it however the hell I want. I give up. So he
Just call
chose
him the Z or something.
he chose the name Zhengde. Zhengd means proper virtue, which is going to be really ironic in this story.
Wait, ironic.
Yeah, it's so
Something goes wrong.
he was 13 years old when he ascended to the throne, right?
Never a good idea for a
well,
kid ruler.
Rulers usually ascend in their teens.
Yeah, they
Typically,
do.
They ascend young, but he was really young. So soon after becoming the emperor, it became clear to everyone that Zhengd, who had all the mental and physical qualities to be the emperor and had been groomed his whole life to be the emperor, who had no rivals for the throne, did not want to be the emperor.
Of course.
The next part of the story is the leopard house.
Oh, God.
Oh, this
So-
sounds interesting.
So Zhengd was not interested in his wife
Why do I feel like there was prostitution involved?
because he was one of the only emperors known to visit brothels. You
You got that right on the money.
called it.
No, we was like leopard house. I said that sounds like some prostitution.
You know when he said
nonsense.
leopard house, I'm like, is this the new cat house? Like on HBO?
I mean,
Out.
it kind of is. A cat
Sounds
house.
sexy.
Yeah,
Well,
I
I
was
mean-
like leopard house. That sounds like some prostitution up in there.
I want you to
was
think
like-
about this. I mean, we're all like, oh, he visited brothels, he's into prostitution. But think about this, though. He could have had a harem inside his own palace. I mean, because Chinese emperors are allowed to have
Yeah.
harems. They're allowed to
But
have
no, he's going
concubines.
against
No,
the establishment.
no, he's a real one. He want to get it. He want to get it wrong.
Dude,
He wants a STD, okay?
he wants to live on the edge.
They're
I
good
mean,
enough for his people.
Yeah.
They're good enough for him.
I mean,
he is amongst the people.
You don't want
Exactly.
too clean. You don't want too clean.
He wants his penis to shrivel and fall off, okay? Like the regular people.
Whoa.
I mean, no,
Those
and he had
tigers
called
made
it.
looking to have
I mean,
no
go-
dick
okay,
look
we
all
know.
good and stuff. He
We
thought maybe
know-
I'll just try my luck.
That's a try. We know that these emperors are allowed to have like a plethora of wives called concubines, a harem. I mean, hundreds, thousands, right? They're allowed to.
Okay.
But he chose to be like, nah, I'm gonna get it raw. I'm gonna go to the place where the people get it.
And who does this sound like to you from Game of Thrones?
Tyrion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Rich, got all the money in the world, but he loved the hoes.
So he could have had a harem at his palace, but instead he chose brothels. That's how much he didn't want to be the emperor. He was also uninterested in actually making decisions about state policy. He constantly avoided the royal court. He left all of his state decisions to his eunuch friend Lu Jin. Lu Jin basically became Varys in Game of Thrones. Like, he became like the Varys. Speaking of Game of Thrones, right? He became like the Varys of Game of Thrones. The eunuch who's just basically running the government, right?
Right.
This pissed off his government ministers who hated these powerful eunuchs who were in control. In 1507,
Powerful eunuchs.
powerful eunuchs. In 1507, his first order was to have a 200-room palace built just outside the Forbidden City. For anybody who does not know their Chinese history, Forbidden City is the massive Chinese palace that the emperor lives in.
Okay.
So he built this 200-room palace outside the Forbidden City. It would cost 15,000 pounds of silver to build it.
Wow.
And he called this palace Bao Fang, which translates to the leopard house.
So he built his own leopard house.
He built
He built his own brothel.
a 200-room brothel.
Wait, so not? Oh, man, can you imagine how many hoes you could have up in there?
Listen,
This is-
200 emperors of China, 200's nothing. Those guys are hitting like
no, but I'm talking about. Think about all the women you could have in there that
Yeah.
you could say legally are yours. Like they
Well,
just
yes.
like I own it. Like, he was a pimp, basically.
So.
a pimp.
By the way, it was called this for a very simple reason.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, actual leopards in there.
Yeah.
It housed numerous exotic animals.
Oh wow.
Like tigers
one.
and leopards. So yes, it was called the Leopard House. Literally, it was
Literally.
literally a house of tigers and leopards and wild cats.
Tigers and bears, oh
Yeah.
my.
So he would often release these animals and stage hunting parties for them, and he would spend weeks on these hunts
Why does he sound like a party boy?
instead of actually ruling the country. Once he was mauled so badly by a tiger that he didn't go to court for a month.
Well, yeah, you
Now,
were mauled by a
was
tiger.
this one of the 8 tigers? Or...
Oh no, this wasn't the eunuchs. This was
Oh,
the
this wasn't the
real-
eunuchs?
No, this was the real tigers.
Okay.
So he got mauled
Oh.
by real, live, actual cats.
Surprised he lived to tell the tale if he was
Yeah, that's
mauled by a
surprising.
tiger.
The majority of his time spent in the Leopard House was with a small army of bodyguards. He and the bodyguards hosted parties regularly with musicians, entertainers, wrestlers, criminals, gamblers, and lots of drinking. So, I mean, it was a frat house.
It was a frat house.
It was
Why does
basically...
he sound like a party boy?
It was basically a frat house. By the way, tangent, but this is a totally different story to tell, but there was a Chinese ruler at one point before this guy who believed in strength over intelligence. He kicked out all the intellectuals from his government and he hired only anybody who can like lift.
Oh my
Like his
God.
whole thing was if you can lift, you can run the government. and dude, and he regularly said, if you want a high position in this government, come lift, and if you can outlift me, I'll give you a position. At one point, this one dude, and his whole thing was, even if you can't outlift him, he's just like, that's cool, man, bro. You proved your strength, you're in. At one point, this one dude challenged him to lift a cauldron. That dude he pressed the cauldron. The emperor tried to lift the cauldron. Sorry, they weren't pressing. They were like deadlifting from the ground
Oh
up.
my god.
So the other guy did it. The other guy deadlifted the cauldron. The emperor tried to deadlift the cauldron, but his knees gave out and the cauldron crushed him. So the remaining Chinese government hunted down this dude and his entire family and killed him.
But he was just doing what the emperor told
I
him
know.
to do.
God, man.
That's the problem. And never again was lifting allowed to determine
Well,
Chinese
I mean, that
state
makes
policy.
sense, but that wasn't the dude's fault.
Yeah. So it was a big party, right? Basically, when you think about it, it was kind of like I said, a bunch of bros throwing parties. So it was kind of like Animal House, but it was like Animal House, but instead of the principal shouting like Animal House, it's basically like the Chinese government shouting Leopard House.
and plus, everybody was speaking Chinese.
So at one point, he decided to store a huge cache of gunpowder inside the palace courtyard.
Why do I feel like,
like a
there's an
pe-
explosion?
yeah, this is gonna be a
about
petty
that?
disaster. right here.
Again, he stored gunpowder
Uh-huh.
in the palace courtyard. Mm-hmm. He did that right before a lantern festival.
Oh, God.
So
He burned the palace.
a portion of the Forbidden City went up in a fireball and
Called it.
burned to the ground.
I guess Booksmarts doesn't teach you some things, huh?
He refused to live there and lived in various palaces within the city while the Forbidden City,
Yeah, it was
was
being
repaired.
rebuilt, yeah.
He refused to go to court during this time and ignored his court ministers. Basically, he burned down his own palace. That's how much he didn't want to be the emperor.
Take a hint, China.
Around 1510, he stopped storing exotic animals at the Leopard House, and instead he started collecting exotic women.
Oh, God.
So he moved his harem into the Leopard House. So instead of in the Forbidden City,
Yeah.
now they're living in the Leopard House.
Like it's
He
supposed
and
to.
his men would sometimes raid the homes of wealthy families and kidnap their daughters. He did it for the thrills and then would ransom the daughters back to the families.
Oh, of course. All that's coming to my
Some
mind is
people
from Mel
do
Brooks.
panty
Dude,
raids,
dude, this guy-
And they did daughter raids.
They did daughter
Yes.
raids. Leopard House.
Leopard House.
And all I add is Mel Brooks is good to be the king.
This guy, though, by the way, he's already unpopular in China because he won't run the government. But on top of that, he's kidnapping the wealthy daughters in
And then saying,
China.
if you want them back, give me money.
Remember this also. He's very intelligent. He's very athletic. He just really didn't want to be emperor.
So was he doing this so he could get kicked out or what?
I don't know. I mean,
Sounds like
how do you
it.
get kicked out when you're the only heir to the throne? though?
No, there's gonna be like some military coup or something.
I mean,
you
you're
know?
asking for an assassination. So,
Yeah.
okay, basically, though, here's the thing. His harem in the Leopard House consisted not only of Chinese women, because he's getting exotic women.
Yeah.
He's one of the first emperors to get exotic women.
He's importing
He's
women.
importing. He got women of different ethnicities. He especially was interested in Muslim women.
Where's he getting it from?
I'm
The
just
Silk
say,
Road.
I know he's the king, but where's he getting these
The
women?
Silk Road. You can
I
get
feel
anything
like,
on the Silk
I feel
Road.
like I have a song for him, like Nick Candace. I'm a gigolo, spinning lots of dough.
Throughout his reign, he just continued collecting women in the Leopard House. Now,
Collecting.
But by the way, I'm going to jump ahead to 1520 really quick because
Okay.
right now we're in the 1500s, like early 1510s.
Okay.
But I'm going to jump ahead to 1520, but then we're going to jump back.
Okay.
Because I need to tell you the end of the Leopard House. By 1520, towards the end of his reign,
Yeah.
the Leopard House had thousands of women living within it in a 200-room palace, remember? There was not enough food or accommodations, so many of these women died of starvation.
Oh wow.
Thousands of
Thousands, because he just put thousands of women in a 200-room palace, and he didn't even sleep with most of these women. He just collected.
Just to have them.
It sounds
Yeah.
like somebody who just loved women that much, where he
well,
just wanted to
it
have them
sounds
as
like a
items.
Chinese emperor because that's kind of like what
Sounds
they
like something
did.
they would do.
Yeah.
Oh,
People are starving. I have women.
The
Can we have one story that's not going to lead to cannibalism?
next part of the story, right? So the next part of the story is called the faux market. I want to clarify, not pho market, the faux market.
The
faux market. Dang, you got me
So-
thinking about food now.
So Zhang wanted to know what it was like to live as a commoner.
Of course.
So in 1507, he had an entire replica of a city marketplace built inside the Forbidden City.
Oh my god.
He had an entire replica built in the Forbidden City, in his palace. He had the eunuchs, the women, the soldiers, and the government officials play the role of commoners, merchants, and customers.
He just created a giant stage play.
He created a stage play.
He wanted to be
no,
normal
make believe.
so
He wanted to play
bad.
make believe.
He was. So if they refused, he would punish them or remove them from their positions. Sometimes he liked to play the role of a shopkeeper. And so people would come into his shop and he would sell them like vases
Oh my
and things like
God.
that.
Oh my god.
Other times, he wandered and pretended to be a street commoner and watched as the servants played these roles.
Street rat.
Yeah, people would look down on him, and he liked to feel like he was a,
And he found
a
Princess
commoner.
Jasmine,
This
and they
is
went on a
like-
flying carpet.
There's like some type of like mental disorder. at
Yes,
this
there
point.
is.
Like, I was like,
Well, I mean, when you have like thousands of women,
Yeah.
I guess this is how he got it up. He's like, call me a street rat. Yeah. So I just want to remind you of all this role playing he did. That's how much he didn't want to be the emperor.
Again, yeah.
He wanted people to treat him like a
but
commoner.
like this role play seemed like he wanted that to become his actual life, though.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of scary.
So around 1510, Zheng slowly began to take power away from his government ministers and place authority in Lu Jin and the eunuchs. Lu Jin reinforced this kind of behavior by helping Zheng sneak out of the palace sometimes to see the outside world without supervision. This leaves Lu Jin and the eunuchs with absolute power to rule in his stead. They ruled China for 4 years while Zhang avoided his duties. Lu Jin mercilessly crushed any protests or demonstrations that resisted the eunuch rule. So going back to Game of Thrones, he was like Lu Jin
Yeah.
was kind of like Varys
Yes.
mixed with Theon Greyjoy, or basically just Theon Greyjoy after book 3,
Yeah,
season
that's
3.
why I was like, no, he is Theon Greyjoy
He's
after season
three.
3. He is literally
Right.
Theon Greyjoy after season 3.
Okay, so next, Prince Zhu Zifan, the Prince of Anhua, rebelled against Lu Jin and the 8 Tigers. Lu Jin had implemented heavy taxes on many regions, so that's why the prince rebelled. Zheng put down the rebellion, but he learned at that time that no one trusted the 8 tigers. So he ordered that the quarters of the 8 tigers be searched. Inside, during the search, they found the emperor's robes, the royal seal to issue commands, and many weapons. One of those weapons was a fan that the eunuchs used to fan the emperor. Inside that fan was a hidden knife. It was also discovered that the eunuchs stole 36 million pounds of gold and silver.
What?
And that's not like pounds currency, that's like pounds.
Yeah, no, we're talking
millions
about
of pounds.
pounds.
Like, yeah.
That's like billions of dollars.
That's
like,
So it was an ungodly amount of money.
Yes.
So it was believed that Lu Jin planned to murder the emperor and place his own grandchild on the throne. The 8 tigers were executed. Lu Jin, especially, was for his treason, was tied to a post and cut 3,357 times over a period of 3 days.
Whoa.
He died that's what you call literally a slow, painful death.
They just did paper cuts on him.
Small cuts with knives and swords and things like that. Yeah.
But
so
3 days?
But here's the thing, though. 3,357 cuts. He died on the second day after 400 cuts, but they just kept cutting him. And in fact, if it took 2 days to do 400 cuts, they even sped up how much they cut him. Now listen, I want you to follow this, right? If they sped up how much they cut him from the second day to the third day, either the executioners thought he was resisting them because of how quiet he was being, or the executioners were really lazy. They were just coasting. They didn't want to actually go do work on actual living people that needed to be killed.
Like, no, we gotta stay here. We gotta keep an eye on this one.
They just kept cutting the dead guy.
I'm just gonna cut the guy for like an
because
extra
they were
day.
just like, an extra day of not working.
Alive.
Yeah, he's still alive.
They'll poke him.
In
in
Imperial China in the 1500s, there were a lot of people who didn't want to do their jobs. Emperors wanted to be commoners.
They were the 1500 millennials.
They were the 1500 millennials of China.
The ancient millennials.
So, escaping the palace. So, in 1517, Zhang figured out how to escape the palace on his own. He made his way secretly to the city of Huanfu. In Huanfu, he heard he could find, I'm not even joking, the best music and the best women. So,
Tell me he does not sound like Tyrion right now.
Dude, I mean, here's the thing. There was no jazz at this time, but basically think of Huanfu as like the jazz town of that era.
I totally was thinking trying to like go to New York in the 20s and finding the jazz clubs and everything.
It's like the Harlem of New York, or like the St. Louis of like New Orleans.
Yeah.
Like it was like the best music, the best women. He's the emperor. He could have had any woman he wanted, but he instead wanted to pick up women at clubs. That's what he wanted to do. He's like, I want to go to the clubs and pick up women there, though.
I believe they made this movie about this. It was called Coming to America.
It's good to be the king.
It's good to be the king.
So he would visit Huanfu 3 times over a period of 3 years. Ooh. He would spend 6 months there per visit. Now think about that. That means he spent
year and a half.
A year and a half in 3 years. He spent half of 3 years in this.
So half the year he there, and then the other half
he spent a year and a half as a pickup artist in Huanfu. And really, what you have to consider is, did anyone back at the Capitol wonder, where's the emperor? Like,
I don't think they did. I don't think so.
Maybe they were just glad to be rid of the guy who didn't
They're
want burning down the palace.
They probably never saw him on a regular basis anyway.
Killing the harem.
Bringing thousands of hoes into the...
Kidnapping wealthy girls.
Yeah, the fire starter's not here anymore. That's great.
So during these visits, he met Li Feng, the sister of an innkeeper and a singer. I mean, this just sells itself. She's just in a club just singing like,
singing the blues.
Singing blues.
Yeah.
And she got the light on her and he just like felt starstruck.
Baby, you get my heart going crazy. Stuff like that. So their love affair, so they fell in love and had a brief love affair, but she died soon after. Their love affair was the inspiration for the Chinese opera called The Dragon and the Phoenix. So the next part of the story, and I hope you guys love this, because this only gets more ridiculous. The next section is General Zhu Zhao. Okay? Around 1518, Zheng introduced his ministers, soldiers, and servants to his most trusted general, General Zhu Zhao. No one had ever heard of Zhu Zhao before, not even the soldiers. Zhang walks out of the room. Then General Zhu Zhao walks into the room to introduce himself. Zhang basically walks back into the room wearing military garments and a wig to convince his subjects that he was this mysterious general. I'm not joking. He literally walked out, walked back in a military uniform and a wig, and called himself General
created
Zhu
an alter ego.
Zhao.
He had
created
multiple
alter ego.
personality disorder. That's what was wrong with him.
Everyone basically had to go along with the ruse and act as though General Zhu Zhao was a real person because he was the emperor and they had to do what he said.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how much Zhang didn't want to be the
No,
emperor.
I think he lost it after that. I think he wasn't himself.
Did he talk to himself as the general?
Well, we'll get to that a little bit. I mean, he didn't talk to himself because he was the general, right?
Yeah.
So he talked to them as the general, and whenever he wanted to talk to them as the emperor, he would change back.
What is this, Mrs. Doubtfire? He goes to the back, changes.
Hello.
I'll
This
go
is-
get the king.
This is Fred Flintstone doing the whole, staying at home with the wife, but also going to the water, the Moose Lodge,
Yeah.
that whole thing. So Zhu Zhao and Zhang were never in the same room at the same time, but no one could question that. I also have to remind you, Zhang's real name is Zhu Huzhao.
Yeah.
Zhu Huzhao was the emperor. Zhu Zhao was the general. That's like if Bill Clinton suddenly introduced his most trusted military advisor named General Bob Clinton. or like Donald Trump is like, this is my most trusted military advisor, Ronald Trump. Which, I mean, that sounds way more plausible.
Wasn't it? There was a question about that doctor's note that was admitted for him, and it was like his weird signature, and it might have been Donald Trump.
Dr. Ronald Trump.
Dr. Ronald Trump.
So, acting as the General Zhu Zhao, Zheng led expeditions into Mongolian territory to stop Mongolian raiders. His army defeated an army of thousands of Mongolians. General Zhu Zhao earned their respect, along with the nickname of the Little Prince. It's just kind of funny. I don't know if the Mongolians knew he was the emperor.
No, see, that's right there, Napoleon complex, and he lost it.
So the Mongolians never raided into Chinese territory for the rest of his reign after that. Now imagine everything that I just said about the Mongolians and General Zhu Zhao, the Little Prince, everything, with one additional detail added to it. General Zhu Zhao made all of his soldiers wear brightly colored silk uniforms while fighting the Mongolians. There was no reason for it. They were all wearing silk.
Was he in the closet? I just want to know.
They were the most fabulous army
They were
in Imperial China.
Fabulous.
Wait, because I'm thinking about everything adds up to me now. Like, you had all these women, but you didn't sleep with majority of them. You just had them for collection, so you probably had them for their clothes. And then
He just wanted their wardrobe.
And then you choose a flamboyantly bright color for your people to fight the Mongolians.
It probably took him off guard.
And then you dressing up as another character.
Dude, he just wanted to be a shopkeeper who sold clothes. The most
That was his
fabulous
dream.
clothes
That
in
was his
China.
dream.
He is just.
So what you're telling me is he is good at everything except for being king. He was a good military general.
That's the world's greatest actor
Yeah.
right there.
He was a method actor. He
Method actor.
became what he
Yeah.
had to do.
No, he was everything but an emperor. Like I'm thinking, like, yeah, you have played almost every single role. You played a pimp, you played a kidnapper, you played a shopkeeper,
Romanced as a songstress.
Yeah.
You playing a military person, like
Fashion designer.
Head of a frat.
head of a frat.
Leopard House. So he honored General Zhu Zhao with a new title, General of the Army of Greater Valor. The title was entirely made up. There is no such thing. He just made it up.
No, like he has to.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Well, here's the thing. The title held new responsibilities. exploration and inspection of the northern frontier. Of course, the general of the army of greater valor must explore the northern realm.
Of course.
His ministers begged him to keep General Zhu Zhao at the capital. They were like, please, don't send General Zhu Zhao to explore the northern
He's the best thing
territory.
that ever happened to us.
You gotta keep him here. But the emperor insists, no, it's okay. I'm only sending the general to the expedition. I'll stay. But, he's not really staying.
Dude, right here.
In 1519, Prince Zhu Shenhua led, and by the way, when I heard Prince Zhu Shenhua, I'm like, don't tell me it's another alter ego. But it is a different dude. Prince Zhu Shenhua led what was called the Prince of Ning Rebellion. Dressed as General Zhu Zhao, Zhang arrived to put down the rebellion, but found that one of his local administrators already captured the rebel prince's army. Zhang was upset that he didn't get to be the one to capture the prince.
I wanted to play that role.
Yeah, he wanted to be the hero of this story.
He made him release him.
He ordered all of the enemy soldiers and the rebel prince to be released. He wanted to capture them.
Oh my God! Why?
This
did
is
you do that?
1519.
Yeah.
Why are you doing
In
this?
1521, he was finally able to defeat and capture the rebel prince
I
Zhu
did it.
Shenhua. It took him 2 years after releasing them.
What's wrong with you?
The prince was executed later that year. But I mean, he just got like a stay of execution,
exactly.
basically. So when he returned to the capital, the Zhang and his army, but he's General Zhu Zhao at this point. When General Zhu Zhao returned to the capital with his army, he was accused of impersonating the emperor. So the government is finally like, you're impersonating the emperor. You're not really the emperor.
It worked backwards.
Wait.
So the ministers were so pissed, they accused the emperor of impersonating a guy who is accused of impersonating the emperor.
This is getting all sorts of meta.
Yeah.
This
It's
is
meta.
this sounds like a headache now.
Zhang ignored them and never changed his ways. Like, they were trying to make a point.
Yeah.
And he was just like, but fuck it, leopard house. So the next, his death. Okay. In 1520, he went on an expedition for war. So when he departed, all of his ministers tried to stop him by blocking the army's path. They begged him to fulfill his duties as emperor and sign some state policy forms.
Yeah.
Just they're waving these forms while like
Just
on the
sign it.
road.
Just all we want
sign
is
it
a signature. Just a
before we go.
signature.
Just please sign it. He's like, no.
I'll be right
You know what?
back.
He-
Actually, you know what he probably said? He's probably just like, I can't sign it. I'm General Zhu Zhao. I can't. Only the emperor.
I can't
can sign
write
it."
in his hand.
I don't know his handwriting.
So he refused, and he had them whipped. So he just had the ministers whipped. Some actually died from the floggings, like because he was just like, "Get him off the road. I got a war to fight." Some tried to resign, but he refused to accept their resignations, and I'm not joking. Specifically because he knew no one else would want the job. He's like, "I can't find anybody else to be a minister."
So you
no.
ignored their resignations.
Yeah.
Dang, I can't get out this job.
So he left them in their post and went to war again. He was returning to Beijing after the battle. He was also drunk.
Of
course he was.
So-
Of course.
It's a giant freaking frat party. Of
He
course
was
he's
also drunk. He saw some fishermen in small boats along the Grand Canal.
Decided to go fishing.
He decided... Dude, I'm not sure.
Wait. Is he gonna become a? He's that guy from that
I'm
episode
not-
of Avatar that just
I'm
kept
not
changing
sure.
his hat and
Dude,
was everybody
I'm-
in town.
The cabbage salesman. Dude, I'm not shitting you. He decided to impersonate the fisherman. He sees...
What is wrong with this guy?
Emperor sees fishermen.
Nothing.
Emperor wants to be fisherman.
We should not be able to call these. This is terrible.
So he dressed as the fisherman, and then he rowed out in a small boat to meet them. But he's not a fisherman.
Of course.
He's never been to sea or out.
What, did he capsize and he sank?
He
He
drowned.
capsized. And he needed to be rescued.
And the minister sat like, I don't know.
They probably just said like, well, that's not the emperor, that's General Zhu Zhao. We don't have to rescue that guy.
You
tell
know,
you the fisherman.
there was a moment's hesitation.
Yeah.
They were like, I left my swimsuit
He didn't
back
sign,
at the palace. He didn't sign.
He didn't sign the rescue form. We don't have lifeguards in China. He didn't sign the
we
forms.
needed this in triplicate.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Policy.
Like,
Yeah.
He keeps telling us he's the king. I don't think so.
Yeah,
King wouldn't be out here.
King's back at the palace. He's the
back at the
leopard
palace.
house.
Who's this guy?
Yeah,
He's,
just,
you know.
I don't know,
oh.
man. Ugh. Okay.
I mean, listen, if China was anything, they followed policy.
Yeah.
It's Confucian China.
Of course.
Bureaucracy.
You gotta have paperwork.
He got some kind of illness. I mean, like some kind of pneumonia or something.
Yeah.
But he caught some kind of illness. He was rescued, but he caught some kind of illness. He died soon after.
Okay.
I cannot stress this enough. He died as he lived, not wanting to be the emperor. Like, he died not wanting to be the emperor.
That is somebody who just couldn't get out of anything to say. Like, literally, I think he thought about it. You know what? I think he planned it. I'm going to tell you why. Because he's like, dang, I really can't get out of this. I didn't burn. I didn't sleep with the hoes. Like, I did impersonated a general.
Remember,
I started a war against the barbarians.
Remember this, in China, you know, the emperor is seen as the son of God, right?
Yeah.
In China and Japan, they're seen as God in the flesh, right? So his whole thing is, you know, he's looking out at the fishermen. He's looking at the fishermen in the water.
What do you think? He was Jesus Christ?
Well, no,
Walk on top of water?
I would not be. I wouldn't be surprised knowing this guy. He's like, you know what? Next, I want to be Jesus. If he can walk on the water, so can I.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I seriously.
It's kind of sad though, because he doesn't want to be king. He just wants. He keeps pretending to be common people.
He's like, I don't want to be king. I want to be God. Well, here's the thing though. My whole thing is just basically he looked at the fisherman in the water, and he looked back at, you know, his army. He looked back at his kingdom, and he pointed to his kingdom, and he's just like, God is not out there. God is out there. Points to the fisherman.
I'm going to be Jesus today.
So the aftermath. Zhang had no children.
How do you have no children?
He
in a
had thousands of women.
How do you get that access to that many women and you got no bastard kids? Like,
Right.
how does that happen?
Well, clearly he did a very poor job, whatever it is.
Well, if he
but-
had a bastard child, would he be
Well,
allowed to be in reign?
No, it's true. No, concubine. Remember this. The concubines, there's a difference between prostitutes and brothels.
Well, yeah, concubine was an appointed.
A
thing,
concubine
yeah.
is considered a second wife. So all the women in the leopard
It
house
could-
were not brothel women. They were
It could be that he
concubines.
impregnated all those
No,
women,
he
but
did.
he didn't have any concubine
He did have
pregnancies.
he had pregnancies, but none of them survived.
Oh, okay.
So he did, but
his soldiers was weak. Okay,
All his soldiers was weak.
because like
Yeah.
maybe they
He
had
wasn't good at
He-
everything.
he had great silk covered soldiers, but not down there soldiers.
No, or his soldiers felt like, I just don't want to be a parent today. Goodbye.
His soldiers can fight Mongolians, but they can't get past that boundary of
Pregnancy.
I've come to one conclusion. He hated being king so much, he didn't want any of his offspring to be king. Like, I'm not going to flick my children being king.
So
it sucks.
Right, so his offspring gonna be like, you know what? I'ma just lay up here next to the uterus. I ain't gonna get there. How you doing?
Dude, his sperm didn't want to be a person. His sperm is just like, nah, I'll just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
The sperm, his sperm are looking at the egg, and they're like, nah, God is not in there. God is out there.
He's probably like, save it. We're going to the leopard house.
So the throne passed to one of his nephews, Zhu Hukong. So in his brief moments of actual seriousness, Zhang was actually a great ruler, though, during his brief moments. When he actually went to court and made state decisions, they were all very wise decisions. Every decision he made, seriously, was good, except he rarely went to court to actually make decisions. In fact, the first European contact was made during his rule. And he started European trade during his rule. The first Portuguese established an embassy in Beijing. Zhang was cool with the Portuguese because remember, they were giving him Portuguese women to bang. But after the death of Zhang, they were driven out of China. The Chinese actually would later go to war against the Portuguese, and they would murder the ever-loving shit out of every Portuguese trader, diplomat, soldier, and missionary that came near China. In 1557, they finally let the Portuguese back into China, and that's when they founded the city of Macau, the famous city of Macau. Zhang's antics left the Ming dynasty in ruins and was the start of the fall of his bloodline. Some say that his decisions to avoid his duties was actually a tactical decision. He wasn't stupid. He did it on purpose because the government of China was gridlocked by bureaucracy. His refusal to take action crippled the political process implemented by the ministers. Other emperors after him also refused to go to court.
Yeah.
Like, he inspired that idea because bureaucracy was so bad in Confucian China that he crippled them.
So the end result of all of this is that
So
he was dumb, but not so dumb.
So there was a method to his madness?
There was a method to his madness. Well,
Don't give him too much credit.
some people also feel sorry for him because he may have just wanted an ordinary life.
Yeah.
Like, he
Yeah.
never wanted to be the king, you know? Personally, my opinion of him is that I think he was a troll who just wanted to test the limits of what the emperor can get away
Yeah?
with.
I think so,
I think
too.
so.
Yeah?
I think he
so.
was a troll.
He had to be. I think he just
Yeah.
really wanted to see what he could actually get away with.
Yeah.
Only because, like, that water thing, come on now. Like, you know.
Now, he didn't say that he wanted to walk on water. He just wanted to be a fisherman.
No, but I'm just saying. I said, you know you were testing your limits with that whole fisherman thing. You know you can't swim.
So, before we go, Brendan, do you have anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, shout out to my internet company. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys. You almost ruined the episode. Ken, anything you want to...
No, I'm good.
Okay. Courtney?
Just the usual. Like us on Facebook. Follow us.
Leave us reviews.
Leave us
Leave us reviews, please.
That's important. We want to get some reviews in.
Yeah.
So leave us reviews on
Contact
iTunes
us, yeah.
and Google Play. Email us at ryanandnewsharedead@gmail.com.
Swipe right.
Swipe right.
Yep.
There you go.
Okay, Ania, do you have anything you want to shout out or promote?
No, just thanks for the experience, and it felt good to be back in the station, like actually doing this. This is very exciting. I'm sad I didn't get to meet Ryan, sadly, but
One day.
one day,
Yeah.
one day. But babies are a must. So,
Yeah.
you guys want to follow me on Instagram? It's BIZIERK, and you guys know it. Just keep going through and stay peaceful.
All right, cool. And, I've got nothing I want to promote, so thanks, guys, for joining us on this episode. Join us again next week.
It'll be
I-
it'll be
It'll be
interesting.
interesting.
We won't be here next week.
They
me
won't.
and Courtney.
Courtney
so
and
good
Ken
luck with
won't,
that.
but we'll see how it goes. The song that we are ending on is Dizzy by Joaquim Karud. So, hey, thanks for joining us, guys, and we will catch you later. Take care.
Catch you on the flip side.
Bye.
Ryan and Noosh Are Dead is made possible thanks to KDHR, the student-operated radio station of California State University, Dominguez Hills. For more information about KDHR, please visit www.kdhr.net. The intro song for this show is Space Ace by Blind. The intermission songs are Brambles in the Breeze by Protricity, Lost in Time by Your Daily Water and Expert Novice, and Radical Dreamers Angelic Mix by Tim Shihai. This music is made available thanks to Overclocked Remix. For more information, please visit ocremix.org.